Hola, hola, buen día a todos. Buen día, ¿cómo están? Buen día. Hola, veo que me escuchan bien. Acá estamos con la transmisión también en YouTube Live, así que estamos chequeando en estos minutos antes de empezar que todo esté bien. Y de a poquito van entrando los 1000 participantes que estaban agendados para este encuentro de hoy. Y como quedaron bastantes personas sin poder entrar a esta reunión de Zoom de 1000, estamos haciendo esta transmisión en vivo en Facebook Live para todos aquellos compañeros que no han podido llegar. Así que de a poquito le damos la bienvenida.
Bien, sean muy bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Mi nombre es Santiago Nader y... ¿Quieres decir tu nombre? Okay. Y voy a contarles algunas cuestiones técnicas y de organización para que sepan cómo va a funcionar la sesión. Esta sesión, como decía María, está siendo grabada y está siendo transmitida por YouTube y también está siendo transmitida por dos canales. Hay uno donde hay interpretación y otro donde no hay interpretación, está el audio original, así que si en algún momento se les desconecta de la sesión y no pueden volver a entrar, pueden ir a YouTube, y los que están en YouTube pueden pasar de un video al otro. No vamos a poder dar soporte técnico durante la sesión. Esto quiere decir que si hay algún problema, usualmente en Zoom pueden salir y volver a entrar. Y con eso usualmente se arregla el problema. Hay interpretación simultánea en este momento, traducción simultánea. Para activarla, lo que tienen que hacer es ir abajo en la barra donde están los iconos de Zoom. Tocan interpretación, que es como un icono de un globo terráqueo, y ahí eligen el canal español, ¿sí? Si no necesitan interpretación o traducción simultánea, simplemente lo dejan sin nada, off, en apagado, ¿sí? Los que tienen dispositivos móviles tienen que tocar la pantalla, ir al menú de tres puntitos, y ahí aparece la interpretación, la opción de español. Paulina Casabé va a estar interpretando. Si tienen si escuchan algún problema de audio, por ahí pueden ponerlo en el chat. Durante la meditación vamos a deshabilitar el chat y vamos a volver a habilitarlo recién cuando entremos en el espacio de diálogo. Así que esas son todas las cuestiones técnicas para saber por hoy.
Bien, bienvenidos a todos. Mi nombre es María Noela Anchorena. Muchísimos nos conocemos, somos compañeros de cada mañana desde hace 15 semanas. Esta semana estamos cumpliendo 90 días, entre hoy y mañana. Estamos celebrando el día 90 de comunidad en este contexto tan particular. Así que a los de siempre, bienvenidos una vez más. A los que se suman hoy, todos le damos la bienvenida a este espacio de práctica. El corazón de este espacio es ese, es el poder encontrarnos, reunirnos, detenernos juntos, escucharnos, vernos y poder conectarnos profundamente cada mañana y cada día. Y desde este lugar, en esta sesión particular de hoy, pero en este contexto de comunidad de práctica, contarles que hay personas de 30 países, ¿sí? 30 países desde Emiratos Árabes, Australia, Bolivia, Brasil, Canadá, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, España, Australia, Estados Unidos, Etiopía, Francia, Holanda, Israel, Italia, México, Nueva Zelanda, Panamá, Paraguay, Perú, Portugal, Puerto Rico, Reino Unido, República Dominicana, Suecia, Uruguay y Venezuela. Así que nos invito a poder como contemplar la inmensidad de la práctica y cómo puede en este momento estar llegando a estos 30 países y por ahí alguno más que se esté sumando al YouTube Live, donde va llegando esta red. Y es una alegría enorme, enorme poder sentir que la práctica pueda unirnos de esa manera. Y particularmente hoy la gratitud y la alegría de poder recibir el regalo de la presencia de Jon Kabat-Zinn en este espacio, de Jon a este espacio, es enorme y siento que tiene que ver con eso. Podría hablar de la trayectoria de Jon de manera enorme y creo que sería innecesario ya el legado que él ha dejado y el trabajo que ha hecho y el aporte inmenso en la ciencia, en el campo de mindfulness. La integración de las prácticas contemplativas a Occidente es inmenso y es radical lo que ha ofrecido al mundo y lo que sigue ofreciendo, y es, creo, innecesario agregar desde ese lugar. Hoy siento con mucho gratitud y mucha alegría poder recibir a Jon desde la simpleza de venir a sentarse a practicar y a dialogar con nosotros. Más allá de todo lo que ha aportado, siento que su gran aporte, y para mí en lo personal en todos estos años, ha sido sentir su camino con corazón y esa integridad y esa simpleza y autenticidad con la que transmite y vive la práctica y desde allí la comparte. Y siento que desde ese lugar está hoy acá, desde esa generosidad de decir, sí María, contá conmigo, ahí estoy, qué hermosa comunidad de práctica, allá voy a estar. Y siento que eso es una profunda generosidad, así que estoy muy contenta, Jon, de poder recibirte. Gracias por tu presencia y por sumarte a esta comunidad inmensa de gente preciosa. Y en Latinoamérica, que te podamos escuchar en Latinoamérica y en español, es un regalo inmenso para las miles de personas que ahora te están escuchando. Así que bienvenido, Jon, a esta mañana.
Well, thank you, Maria, and thank you, Santi, and thank you, Paulina, for the simultaneous translating. You can translate that too. It's just such an honor and pleasure and a little bit overwhelming to join you this morning and your community, global community, practicing together, and to actually interface with simultaneous translation, since sadly I don't speak Spanish myself, to be able to connect with the entirety of the Spanish-speaking community and world in this way is really a profound honor for me. I'm deeply touched, as I'm sure I know many of you from my various travels in the days when we were able to travel. But there's something about the internet in this time of pandemic that's actually, I'm finding, offering us a degree of intimacy that's at least as profound as our physical presence for each other. There's something about the heart presence in a space like Zoom or YouTube, where we can really, in some sense, not only feel each other, but see each other, all of us, in ways that are new to humanity. And one of the probably few really benefits of this kind of crisis that the entire globe is facing. And it's really a momentous time for us as a species. And the challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic and so forth, really, I see it as an opportunity, and I know you're taking it as that, to to take refuge, to basically be on retreat, since we have had to be locked down or engage in social isolating and not go places physically, that we could actually do what Thoreau called engage in inner cartography, so to speak, inner exploration, and travel the universe right through connecting with our own being, our own heart, our own multiple intelligences. So since we only have a short time together, even though if measured in moments, it's to a first approximation infinite, let's actually take a few moments to establish ourselves in a posture, whatever that is for you, lying down, sitting, standing on your head, but a posture that embodies wakefulness and dignity, whatever that is. And whether you've been meditating for 100 years or this is your first exposure to it, letting go of the past, letting go of the future, letting the thought stream just do whatever the thought stream does, as if it like goes over a cliff like a waterfall, and it's just endless droplets of thought energy, but you can basically sit behind it in a little depression in the rocks and just hang out in a place where the thoughts just come and go, but you don't have to be carried away by them. Or if you are carried away by them, which all of us ultimately are, then to notice that your mind is now lost in thought. And in the noticing, you're already back here in this timeless present moment we call now. So wherever you are in the world, whatever time zone you're in, taking your seat, not as some kind of habit, but as a radical act to stop and to drop into the timeless quality of the present moment, the only moment any of us ever have in which to breathe in or breathe out, in which to live our lives. And this is a radical act of sanity, actually, to stop at this particular time in this, what I've been calling mitigation retreat that we're all on globally to one degree or another, because that's the only way that you can actually reduce the infectivity of this virus is by taking shelter. But most of us have never been trained in how to actually abide in or take shelter in ourselves. And so this is, while it's a true disaster facing the planet, there are also enormous number of lessons to be learned about what the species needs to, how the species needs to actually face the full dimensionality of our humanity and the challenges that our industry, so to speak, as humans and our creativity have created global warming and have created all the conditions for global pandemic spread. And of course, issues of endemic poverty, injustice, racism, imperialism, all sorts of elements that are really like a disease of the planet that can no longer really be accommodated without recognizing that we're creating kind of self-inflicted disease that is going to have implications for future generations. And so this is a turning point, potentially, this pandemic, this taking refuge in the present moment. And so we're on what I sometimes call a mitigation retreat. We're mitigating and damping down the exponential, curve of the virus spread. And at the same time, we're opening up our hearts. So sitting as if your life depended on it, which of course it does, or you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that. Taking your seat as a radical act of sanity, as one individual representing the entire species, Homo sapiens sapiens. Whether you're a child, whether you're a parent, whether you are both, that your contribution on this planet is a miracle and an occasion of tremendous beauty. The world needs all its flowers at the moment, and you are one. So taking your seat is a radical act of both sanity and ultimately a radical act of love. Not in the sense of narcissistic, look at me, how wonderful I am, but love in the sense of deep intimacy and connection with the beauty of what is unfolding on this planet, with everything that might be possible if we could come to our senses, literally and metaphorically, as a species. And so for now, dropping underneath all my words and guidance to a silence that's never not here, that's underneath my words, inside the pointing where the words are pointing to, in between the words. And resting here in this silence, fully awake, not trying to get anywhere, not trying to do anything, not attached to some special outcome that you think will come from being a really good meditator or a meditation practice. But as it says in the Heart Sutra, in the great Prajnaparamita, wisdom beyond wisdom tradition of Mahayana and Vajrayana, is right in this moment, no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing to attain. No special something you're after. The special something is you, and it's already here, and it's your awareness, only it's not yours. So can we rest here in the boundless spaciousness of awareness itself? Your birthright and what we might call our truest nature as humans, this boundless spaciousness of awareness that's actually also remarkably, mysteriously, miraculously embodied. And just resting here in awareness as if your life depended on it, moment by timeless moment. And for those of you who are relatively new to the meditation practice, but it's true for all of us, sooner or later you will notice that your mind has a life of its own, and it's kind of a little bit unruly, and will go here and there no matter what you've invited into the present moment. So we'll get caught in that waterfall, that cascading mind, so to speak, the endless thought stream. But a point will come when there will be a noticing of that. And in the awareness that your mind has wandered off and is lost in thought, you're already back. You're already here. So you begin again, just like each in-breath is a new beginning. Each moment of coming back to this present moment, new beginning. Actually, the present moment's been here all along. And a lot of the body and what the body does has been here all along. It's here in the present moment, but thinking and our emotions and the narratives we tell ourselves are so strong that we've become habituated to really being out of touch with this moment. Always trying to get to some better moment, or remembering some better moment from the past, or running away from some horrible traumatic moment in the past, or running, towards what we hope will be something good in the future. But this is the only place we have to stand, or sit, or act, or love. And so here we are around the world, basically, in every time zone. And we're sitting by ourselves. So we are in some very profound way alone. And the invitation is to be comfortable with this aloneness. So I'm not talking about loneliness. I'm talking about being truly yourself alone in this moment. And at the same time, by virtue of being part of this global community, we're also completely embedded in larger spheres of wholeness. We are whole ourselves and completely integrated into larger and larger spheres or circles of wholeness, well-being, caring, wisdom, compassion. And by dropping in this way, we're actually fortifying, instantiating, strengthening those capacities that are innate to us to actually live in an embodied, open-hearted, spacious way that's not so caught in the personal pronouns of I, me, and mine, and my wants, and my fears, and my desires, and my successes, and my failures, which actually creates enormous loneliness because it shuts us off from the vast, deep interconnectedness of not just the world, but the universe. And not just the universe, but even your body. So mind wanders, just when we notice it, it's already back, but we intentionally reconnect with whatever we've chosen as an object of attention, if we're using some object of attention to ground us. Or if you're resting in the boundless spaciousness of awareness itself, it actually turns out it's the same awareness, no matter what door you go in. Many, many different doors, but they all give into the same room. And it's the room of your heart. The vast repertoire of intelligences that is you, but none of which has your name on it. All the trillions of cells that constitute your body, half of which are bacteria and other microorganisms that are not even you, but that you are absolutely, dependent on. It's called the microbiome. Nowhere in all the cells that constitute your body will you find any you, your name, your age, your form, anything like that. And yet the entirety of it somehow mysteriously gives rise to a sense of you, me, us, sentience. And can we divorce that sentience or that awareness from the small-minded narratives that we inevitably generate about my body, my life, my success, my failure? And that's the liberative dimension of this practice. And it's not sometime in the future, it's right here in this moment. And it's not that the mind can't go anywhere at all, but within the awarenessing of knowing where the mind is, you're already free in this moment. And whatever it is that's on your mind has the potential to completely self-liberate. Like touching a soap bubble, when awareness holds delusion or greed or hatred, in this very moment, it self-liberates. And then we're not tethered, fettered, caught, imprisoned by our own tendencies to collapse into I, me, and mine. And so as we sit here, underneath everything I've said, staying with the open-hearted spaciousness of awareness itself, disturbances are merely weather patterns in the sky. The sky itself is no problem with weather of all kinds, storms, tempests, turbulence. And that's the nature of our awareness, is that it can hold it all and be its intrinsic self through it all. And that intrinsic self, this intrinsic quality of being, is who you really, 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 really are, underneath name and form and all your narratives. And so befriending silence, befriending stillness, befriending wakefulness. And checking in from time to time, how is it in the body right in this moment? The first foundation of mindfulness in the teachings of the Buddha, first foundation of mindfulness in Satipatthana Sutra, the body. How is it in the body right in this moment? It's the whole universe, the body. Trillions of cells, trillions of synaptic connections, $86 billion neurons at last count that give rise to those trillions and trillions of synaptic connections in the brain, continually changing on the basis of experience and driving what's called neuroplastic changes, functional connectivity. And it's all happening right here, right now. And actually silence and stillness influence not just neuroplastic changes and the quieting of certain centers in the brain, like the PCC, but also your genome and what proteins are being expressed, upregulated, downregulated by the hundreds. Silence and stillness and non-doing actually influences our biology. And that's true for cell senescence and cell aging too, and how stress accelerates that. As we know from the work of Alyssa Epple and Cliff Sarin and Elizabeth Blackburn and all of the people who are working on telomeres and telomerase, and the story of how that interfaces with stress and meditative awareness. So it's your body sitting here as a universe, infinite universe, almost entirely space actually. And then how is it in the heart, right in this moment? Underneath thinking, before thinking arises, you know how it is in the heart. That's awareness. And how is it in the mind? If we want to differentiate at all between mind, heart, body, but we do conventionally, how is it right now in the mind as you sit here. Bathing in what I'm saying, but really bathing in your own being. Befriending this moment. Inviting yourself to be completely at home. Right here, right now. Even in the midst of a pandemic and economic collapse and all sorts of things that are going on in the world and in our families and, that are sometimes, highly stressful and challenging in so many ways, including loss and grief and death. And right in this moment, can we hold it? Can awareness wrap its arms around it all like a mother holding her child? And just allowing the silence to be the love, the sentience, the awareness to be the loving, to be the knowing, and to be the knowing of not knowing too. So this knowing and this not knowing, this being in your body to the point where you are embodied, whatever we mean by that, but you know instinctively. It's all portable. We can carry it or it can carry us, much more accurate to say it that way, from moment to moment to moment, throughout the day. When we're alone and when we're together. And right now we're both alone and together. How beautiful is that? So when you're ready, if your eyes have been closed, simply inviting your eyes to gradually open and drink in whatever's before you. If your eyes have been open, then continuing to drink in what's before you. And to maintain a seamless continuity in the awareness, even as the eyes open and as we move into a time of dialogue and conversation and inquiry. And I'm not ringing any bells. I didn't ring any bells at the beginning. I'm not ringing any bells now because the mind will say, oh yeah, now the meditation's over and now we're going into dialogue. But there's no end or beginning to this meditation, to any meditation. The meditation is coextensive with life when it's lived with awareness. All life is the meditation practice. This is it. Any moment. That has profound implications for how we navigate the ups and downs of this world, of the present moment, of our own individual lives. And you would not be here if you didn't already know that. So again, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I'm not pointing out anything that you don't already know. And that's part of the wonder and the mystery of this whole engagement that we're calling mindfulness, the cultivation of mindfulness, or this love affair with mindfulness and heartfulness, wisdom and compassion embodied is that it's our true nature. It's not like, oh, yeah, we have to acquire something. This is it. And why do we forget so easily and get carried away by autopilot and by our fear and by our narratives? So we're all in the same boat together, and we're growing and learning as individuals and as communities, and I hope as a species, because the stakes for this, as I was suggesting in certain parts of the guided meditation, the stakes are really, 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 really high. And if we don't learn the lessons of this COVID-19 pandemic, this will not be the last pandemic, and it may not be the most lethal pandemic. And then there's global warming, which is its own kind of pandemic. The virus is our ignorance and our greed and our othering and the way we dominate other humans and the history of our domination, whether it's in Latin America, or whether it's in Indonesia, whether it's in North America. And this is like the infancy of the human story. And now it's time for us to sort of at least become teenagers, if not young adults, and wake the hell up. No kidding around. This is it. So that said, I'd like to invite you all to be in conversation for the time that we have left. The most important part of our gathering, I feel often, is that it's in our listening to each other, in our really hearing each other, feeling each other, seeing each other, and exploring and experimenting and adventuring together, because this is one gigantic adventure, and we do not know where we're going, but we know toxicity when we see it, and we know love when we see it. And so it's almost a no-brainer, as we say, or axiomatic, that we would move away from the toxic. Even bacteria and paramecia do that. They move from places that are toxic to places that are wholesome, away from the unwholesome to the wholesome, as the sort of classical Buddhist texts would have it. Let's not forget that this is an ethical practice. Mindfulness is absolutely ethical practice. And one brief encapsulation of that ethics is the Hippocratic Oath, when it's actually embodied and instantiated as individuals or as institutions like medicine. First, do no harm, primum non nocere. So how would we even know if we're doing harm unless we apprehend, unless we pay attention, unless we're mindful, unless we're heartful? So it's a hell of a moment on this planet, hell of an adventure. And I just want to say again, how grateful I am for the invitation to even tune in with your community, and to just say that there are multiple communities like this going on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube. And we're all practicing together. This is, in some sense, a gift that would not have happened in the way that it's unfolding without this requirement, absolute requirement on the part of the healthcare and epidemiologists that we stop and drop. Even though it, has enormous consequences for the economy, there's something more important that human intelligence has to navigate the calculus of, and we are doing that, sometimes poorly, sometimes a little better than poorly. But mindfulness is not kind of some luxury. It's the absolute critical element here if humanity's going to make its way through this and live our way into the name we gave ourselves as a species, Homo sapiens sapiens. And I won't go into it in long detail, but it's the species that is aware and is aware that it's aware. Awareness and meta-awareness, not cognition and metacognition. Too limited. Okay. Maria.
Los invitamos entonces a levantar la mano. Sí, los invitamos a levantar la mano de manera virtual para empezar un periodo de diálogo con Jon en los próximos minutos. Así que pueden ir al dice participantes, y apretar allí, se abre un display que dice levantar la mano. A nosotros nos llega eso y abrimos el micrófono para que puedan compartir. Lo pueden hacer en español, y Paulina le va a traducir a Jon en el canal en inglés, así que ustedes hablan en español naturalmente, que Jon va a estar escuchándolos en inglés a través de Paulina. Carolina, y pueden seguir levantando la mano los que quieran. Carolina Dillon, puedes abrir tu micrófono y compartir.
Ahí está abierto.
Hi, Jon. Hola, Jon. I'm thrilled to be talking to you. I'm very happy.
Where are you from?
I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. De Argentina a Buenos Aires. Sí, perdón.
Carolina habla en español, ¿sí?
Sí, voy a hablar en español. Sí. Estoy muy contenta de poder compartir con vos hoy. Quería preguntarte, ¿cuál es el poder de mindfulness sobre el dolor crónico, ¿no? ¿Cómo puede ayudar a personas con dolor crónico el mindfulness? Gracias.
Okay, well, this is a very big question, and of course it lies at the heart of the work that we've been doing now for 40 years in mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. I've written about it in great detail, and the two longest chapters in Full Catastrophe Living are on chronic pain. So I'll only be able to touch on it here. But usually chronic pain is an enormous burden for society and for the individuals that are living with pain every single day. And very often what we try to do as best we can with drugs, with surgery, with distraction, is to try to get as far away from the pain as possible, because we feel like it's destroying our lives. And sometimes that works, and that's great. If you can get away from the pain and have the pain magically go away, wonderful. But for millions of people, that's not the case. And sadly, often they've already had 3 or 4 back surgeries or all sorts of kinds of treatments that have not helped them. And so it's very easy to get depressed and desperate and so forth. So all I'll say is that mindfulness offers a whole new dimension to be in wiser relationship with the actuality of one's experience. Even calling it pain often is a problem, because as soon as we create the idea of pain, we create a monolith, and then it's too big to deal with. Why not call it discomfort? And why not take a peek at it just now, not like the 20 years I've been in chronic pain, but how is it right in this moment? And when we train people in this in a gentle and loving way, they actually can turn towards rather than run away from their chronic pain condition and begin to befriend the actual sensations. And to see that the sensations, maybe you can put your toe in the water, like in a swimming pool or at the ocean, for like even half an in-breath, and just feel and look and see what you don't want to look and see and feel. And then like maybe you can do another half an in-breath or an out-breath. And in that way, you're beginning to befriend the unwanted and uncouple it from your thoughts about it and your emotions about it and your narratives about it, which are toxic and actually drive those sensations from pain to suffering. And there's a big distinction between pain and suffering, the root meaning of which, as you probably know, being a Spanish speaker, is to carry. So we're carrying a lot, and it's a burden, and it's enormous, and we need to learn to put down the burden. And mindfulness and heartfulness will give us a way to actually befriend what's most unwanted, and in the befriending, learn to live with it, which is what many doctors tell chronic pain patients is, sorry, we don't have any more treatments. You'll just have to learn to live with it. And that's the end of it. They don't tell you how to learn to live with it. That's what MBSR, one of the things that MBSR was designed to do from the very beginning. We could talk for hours on this subject, but I think that we'll leave it at that for now, given the time frame. Thank you so much for that question. I'm sure you're asking this question for thousands of people who need to be reassured that there is something that they can do even when the doctor says there's no more surgeries, there's no more drugs, there's nothing more that's possible. And the drugs often are very destructive, narcotic kinds of things that aren't helpful in their own right after a while.
Seguimos con Emanuel. Emanuel, puedes abrir tu micrófono y compartir.
Sí, sí, sí. Hi, hi, John. What a pleasure to share this moment with you. Yeah,
Emanuel,
sí.
habla en español.
Qué placer compartir este momento con vos y con toda esta comunidad. Cuando estábamos haciendo la meditación, una de las cosas que creo que todavía no logro encontrar la respuesta desde que conocí esta práctica de mindfulness y teniendo en cuenta, bueno, lo que vos decías sobre aprovechar la pandemia como momento de refugio en nosotros mismos, se me ocurrió preguntar cómo, si hay una técnica, si podemos recurrir a algún lugar, algún pensamiento, a algo que nos atraiga de nuevo a volver a este lugar, al lugar del aquí y ahora, y hacer de esta práctica algo más cotidiano, digamos, porque es muy fácil después del entrenamiento irse y me gustaría a mí personalmente saber cómo volver de nuevo.
Wow, what a fantastic question, Emmanuel. What a fantastic question. I mean, we don't have that many time for questions, and the question about chronic pain and now this question, like if we just had those two questions, it would be a huge benefit to people. So the real meditation practice isn't what we just did. And you'll notice I talked a lot. I invited you to drop underneath my words, but still I talked a lot because I'm pointing out certain kinds of aspects of the terrain, of the landscape of the mind and body and world. The real meditation practice is moment by moment living our lives. Okay, so it's not sitting in silence or sitting with somebody guiding or tuning into an app, no matter how great the app. It's how you live your life with your parents, with your children, with your colleagues, in terms of how you treat your own body and your own moments. And when you get down on yourself or when you are perpetually distracted or addicted or whatever it is, every single moment is your teacher or, a reminder to remind you to be that not just to be in the present moment, that you are already in the present moment, but you're preventing yourself from actually realizing it, making it real in that moment. So no matter what you're doing, any moment of your waking day, except perhaps in deep sleep, that's the meditation practice. That's the opportunity. This is kind of essential. It's necessary. Absolutely necessary every day and as much as you can, and go on retreat and everything else, but it's not sufficient. You can be a great meditator and an idiot in the social domain, for instance. I mean, and the world is going to become your great teacher. Everything is your teacher. So if you actually live that way, then, the birds outside your window, whatever is arising, the clouds, the storm, the rain, and how the mind relates to it. It's all like, well, the challenge is always the same. Am I here now? How am I going to be in relationship to this moment? Outwardly, in terms of outer conditions, inwardly, in terms of inner conditions. And then what's my motivation in the first place? Is my motivation to just improve on myself? If so, you're practicing the wrong things. Mindfulness is not self-improvement. It's realization that there's no improving on who you actually are, but it has nothing to do with your narrative of who you think you are. And that's it's a lifetime's work, and it's the work of no time at all, and it's not work. It's fun, it's play. So if you do it, if you engage in the non-doing with a light touch, I know it sounds like do the non-doing, sounds a little crazy, but what passes for sanity these days is so crazy that maybe we need to be a little bit crazy in order to truly be sane. So let life become your teacher and every moment become the practice, and keep the formal practices going in whatever ways are most important to you. But know that that's just kind of like the platform for reminding yourself that the whole 24 hours is your meditation retreat, your monastery, and your invitation to engage in the world. Does that make sense to you?
So, totally. Sí, totalmente. Sí, muchas gracias.
You're welcome. We have time for a few more, I think.
Seguimos con Roxy Lautaro de Buenos Aires. Pueden abrir su micrófono.
Ahí va. A ver.
Roxana, ¿estás por ahí?
Ahí está.
Ahí.
Hola Jon, ¿cómo estás?
Hola.
Somos,
Hi there.
Somos madre e hijo y somos muy fanáticos de vos en la casa. Y mi pregunta para vos era, ¿te parece que el mindfulness, o sea, debería estar desde el principio de la educación de un ser humano, o sea, metido en lo que es la educación de alguien desde el inicio de la vida y desde el inicio del crecimiento, o te parece que tiene su valor agregado encontrarlo por vos mismo una vez que has vivido, una vez que te has enfrentado con no tenerlo como herramienta, digamos, encontrarlo en un momento más avanzado de la vida, tiene, digamos, su valor?
Well, why can't you have it both ways? You know, if you're born into a family where you're really seen for who you are, your parents in some sense recognize your Buddha nature, let's say, from the beginning, and don't try to put so many expectations on you that then you feel like you have to, you know, struggle to find out who you are. That's a step in, you know, a good direction. But let's say that didn't happen and you weren't born into a family where mindfulness was really valued. Then whenever you discover it, that's like a wonderful moment to recognize why you're drawn to it. Okay, and if it really is a love affair and not some narcissistic engagement, then the love affair includes cognition, it includes emotion, it includes the intellectual, it includes the social, it includes the philosophical, it includes the mystery of it. But if you get lost in these things as just mere thinking, then it doesn't integrate into being. So you can be like a great thinker and really kind of incompetent in the social domain. To a certain degree, that's karma, but to another degree, it's your choice. How do you want to cultivate the full spectrum of your being? And the younger you are, the more that becomes like the adventure of your life. I don't know how old you are, but I discovered mindfulness when I was 21 years old, when I was already a graduate student at MIT. And when I heard a talk about, you know, Zen by a Zen master named Philip Kapleau, I took the top off my head. I just immediately recognized, this is what I've been looking for my whole life of only 21 years. But it spoke to something that had been bothering me for most of those 21 years, that it wasn't like I didn't have a good life, but something was missing that could integrate all these different elements of even my, you know, conceptual, cognitive interests never mind family, emotions, you know, that kind of thing, in ways that were, I just saw immediately were profound, and I just never stopped practicing from that time on. So why do you ask that question? Let me ask you.
Sí, lo pregunto porque a mí me parece que hay muchas cosas de la infancia o de las preguntas que te empezás a hacer que acompañadas con mindfulness, digamos, podrían haberme formado de otra manera, pero también agradezco, bueno, como decís vos, haber vivido hasta acá y haberme encontrado con esto y decir, por cómo viví las cosas y por mi ritmo de vivir las cosas, agradezco haber encontrado el mindfulness, y tal vez eso, digamos, no tener mindfulness desde el principio y haberlo encontrado, hizo que me cerrara mucho más, hizo que sea más satisfactorio para mí encontrarlo. Entonces, o sea, es mejor que sea...
Fantastical. You've not only answered your own question, but this is a profound realization. You see, you can't go wrong. Whatever arises in your life can become part of your meditation practice, and then it actually liberates you in the sense of provides you with more degrees of freedom in how to negotiate or navigate the ups and downs, as Odysseus called them, the twists and turns, Homer, the twists and turns of life. And the earlier you learn that, the more degrees of freedom you have to find out actually who you really, really, really are, and share it with the world in ways that don't involve, you know, a big ego trip. And ego trips carry enormous amount of suffering, inwardly and outwardly, for oneself and for other people. So the younger you realize these kinds of things, the more possibilities arise for a true kind of, not just healing, but not creating the wounds that then later need healing, but then it just becomes a huge adventure in learning and growing and healing, and ultimately, but right in this moment too, transformation. And it's all baked into the practice in any moment and in every moment. Again, like, thank you for this question. I mean, these are very, very profound sort of ways to investigate what it means to be alive. Do you mind telling me how old you are?
Sí,
I'll tell you.
Tengo 22.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm 76. You know? So I like to wave to you from one end of life to the other. Okay, and this is really the hope of the future. Is not, you know, us old people. It's the spark of intuition and creativity and insight that does tilt things in the direction of maximizing well-being and benefit for everybody, all beings, not just human beings, and minimizing harm, suffering, greed, delusion, the kinds of real suffering that is completely avoidable if we as humans recognize what our own hearts and minds are in their truest nature. So it's an honor for me to be in conversation with you like this. And who is this sitting next to you?
My mom.
Okay, I didn't want to make any kind of assumptions here, but that's really important. okay,
Claro.
that the two of you are sitting together. You don't have to say a word. It speaks volumes. You're sitting together in the morning in Buenos Aires, meditating together. I mean, you know, it's just beautiful. Nice to meet you.
Gracias. Gracias, John.
Es hermoso lo que decís, John y Lautaro. Qué lindo verte, Lautaro, a las dos, Roxy. Acaban de hacer un enviesar conmigo hace semanas, terminamos, hace 2 o 3 semanas el enviesar, que es lo que vos decís, John, la belleza y la chispa y la pureza que trae una mente joven, ¿no? Y lo que trae fue muy bello, ¿no? Y esto que vos decís, creo que hay mucho para aprender y para nutrirnos e inspirarnos. Así que gracias a los dos por estar hoy acá también. John, son las 9 acá, tenemos un montón de manos, como vos verás. ¿Querés que tengamos unos minutitos más? ¿Alguna otra pregunta más o diálogo? Como vos quieras, nosotros tenemos posibilidad de seguir.
I'll go with 1 or 2 more. It's early.
Bueno.
It's earlier in the day, my time.
Perfecto,
I have a
gracias.
little
Entonces,
time.
gracias, John, por este ratito más. Y entonces sí, vamos a tomar 2 comentarios más de Mariana Foa Torres. Adelante, Mariana.
Ahí está. Ya está el
Ahí
micrófono.
estoy. Sí, se me había escapado. Bueno, buenos días a John, a ustedes dos, muchísimas gracias. Y a Lautaro y a Roxy, que estoy profundamente conmovida, y ellos dos ahí meditando. Yo lo que le quería preguntar a John, en mis prácticas de meditación, voy como liberando mi mente o aquietando, me pongo muy bien, pero es como que siento que todo se me va al pecho, como algo que me apretara fuerte, ¿no? Que no es un dolor, es como si fuera una angustia mezclada con una fuerza rara, que tampoco sé si es angustia, es como que la mente se me fuera acá. No sé, es una cosa medio rara. Y nada, a ver si tiene algo que ver, si estoy fuera de eje, no sé. ¿Qué me puede decir John?
I don't know. This is part of the work, is to, you know, live your way into your body and listen very deeply to what it's telling you. So if you have something going on that you recognize as like a heaviness or a weightedness or a sense of contraction in the chest, that's really beautiful and powerful and really useful to put the welcome mat out for and attend to. Just by sort of feeling your way into it and not trying to run away or think about it so much, but by just listening to whatever emerges. And what it might emerge as a thought, or it might emerge as a memory, or it might emerge as a feeling, or, you know, nothing might emerge, but to actually work with your body in this way is, well, as I said, it's the first foundation of mindfulness. Now, it's also potentially helpful to, I don't know if you do mindful yoga every morning, but whenever anything arises in the body, a little, you know, like a half an hour of mindful yoga in the morning, which I do all the time, at least a half hour, you know, and holding that in awareness. So it's the same meditation practice, just a different door in. Very often you can discover sort of physical elements of that, but then you drop into, say, a body scan. And as you move into the chest region, moving up from your feet, and if you do this as a regular discipline, the body very often, in my experience, will speak to you, and will speak to you in ways that are completely astonishing, that you can never get to, or hardly ever get to, even in, I mean, we've had cases of people who've had 10 years of psychotherapy, and then doing a body scan, they realize something about it, okay? But you need to be friendly enough with yourself to welcome whatever it is that arises, because some of it may be, you know, traumatic, some of it may be a real sense of, you know, things that you may have experienced in the past that you don't really want to revisit, but they linger as this kind of congestion in the chest or something like that. So if you're in therapy or you have somebody who is a support for you in being able to turn towards what you maybe most don't want to turn towards, that would be really powerful. And I'm just surmising, since I don't know you at all, what the story would be. But just to say for everybody, because it's a real contribution, is that there's now kind of a book by David Treleaven called Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness that has a lot of very interesting suggestions for how to relate to particular kinds of experiences when they arise, if they do bring up sort of memories of trauma that we've forgotten about. I'm not saying that's true at all for you, but anything that arises in the body becomes a really worthy object of inquiry and deep investigation, as long as you see it as a love affair. Okay, so that you're reclaiming your life rather than trying to even understand your life, with your head. Does that make any sense to you?
Claro. Totalmente, sí, totalmente. Me llamaba la atención eso, cómo podía estar bien mi mente y que era como si se atravesara hasta acá, ¿no? Nada, voy a
It's
trabajarlo.
really interesting. Yeah, you could see it actually as a gift.
Sí,
Because
sí, y lo veo
really,
clarísimo aparte, pero digo, bueno, tengo que trabajar esto será algo normal, bueno, normal no, pero bueno. Bueno, Jon, estoy infinitamente agradecida, ¿eh? Muchas gracias.
Thank you. The only thing I would add is to work on it. That's great. Work on it with enormous kindness and self-compassion. Okay, just very, very gently.
Bien, y vamos con la última compañera para compartir.
Gracias.
Rosa Eisen. Rosa, adelante.
Sí. Ahí está.
Sí, hola a todos, ¿qué tal? Buen día, gracias María, gracias
Hola.
Santi, gracias Jon. Yo quería preguntar, a nivel mundial hay como resistencias de gran parte de la humanidad que está enojada con esta indicación de quedarnos sentados, de quedarnos en casa, de cuidarnos, y salen a protestar y salen enojados. Si podés como darnos una explicación sobre esto, qué estaría representando todo esto, si algo así como si la humanidad fuera un cuerpo, qué parte de resistencia corporal estaría representando toda esta gente tan enojada con respecto a no poder cuidarse como una integridad, ¿no? Algo así.
Wow, this is a very profound question. I obviously, my most honest answer would be, I don't know. That said, it's completely understandable why people would be angry. For one thing, the very fact that we can be on Zoom like this means that in some way or other, we're privileged. Okay, we can take an hour to meditate together globally. Other people have to be out working at unbelievable hours of the day and night on the front lines of the pandemic, delivering food to people who are isolating in their houses for months at a time. The essential services, those people are much more at risk of getting COVID-19, of dying. If you have a pre-existing condition or you happen to be elderly, which is like, it's kind of funny what people think of as elderly now. So you say like over 60, you're elderly. I think that's kind of funny. But the fact is that in our country, people of color are much more susceptible to dying from COVID-19 than white people, especially the more economically privileged you are. So if people are angry about that, I'm angry about that. I'm angry about a lot of what's going on. The question is, there's nothing wrong with anger. It's just a human emotion. The real question is, how can we befriend the anger and use that energy for good to maximize, as I was saying, ethically maximize well-being and minimize harm and hurt? Well, the way the society's structured, the very small number of hugely privileged people and protected people, they may be meditating and all happy and everything. And other people, they meditate, they need food, they need money, they need shelter, they need some degree of human comfort and connection, and they may not be having it. So it's not the anger that's the problem. The problem is how we understand the anger and how we understand how that anger expresses itself in the body politic. So just as the body can have problems, as we've been discussing with chronic pain or with those sensations in the heart, the body politic, I don't have to tell you that in Argentina or to people in America or any place else, the body politic is insane a lot of the time. And there should be a lot of anger around that. But anger can either be harmful and destructive, or it can be creative and healing. And underneath it, we have to recognize that the angry people, whoever we want to point to and say, oh, they're so angry, they're no different from us. So we don't want to get into using and theming and then go to war with all these people that aren't like us. That would be the exact opposite of mindfulness, heartfulness, compassion, kindness. So we need another way of understanding what disease the planet is suffering from, what disease and what dis-ease we're all suffering from as a species. And then everybody does his or her part to befriend what we most don't even want to deal with. Because we can talk to each other on Zoom and Facebook till we're blue in the face. But it's the people who are not on this call, who are not meditating every day, who have very legitimate reasons to be angry or to be depressed or to feel hopeless. Those are the people we need to connect with, because they're us and we're them, and we get angry too. I certainly, I mean, I'm no stranger to anger. So it really has to do with how do we hold that in our own hearts. Does that help at all in terms of where your question is coming from?
Sí, comprendería más el enojo por parte de toda esa gente que no tiene otro remedio que salir a trabajar. También hay una parte de los que sostienen este sistema que están enojados, ¿no? Los que, más como los dueños del planeta, eso es lo que más me duele, pero lo entendería, digamos, pero es lo que más resiste, ¿no? Como la parte más oscura sería algo así, ¿no? Ahí lo pensaba también. Pero sí, comprendo la respuesta. Te agradezco muchísimo la respuesta porque...
Thank you. I love your question. I wish we could talk about this for hours and then do something on the basis of this, because that's what I've been pointing to. That's what really needs to heal, to have light shown on it. The wealth asymmetries, the power asymmetries are not healthy for the body politic anymore. And they've led to global warming, to a kind of pandemic of fever on the part of the planet. If it goes too much further, it can trigger all sorts of chaotic processes that might, turn this planet into something unlivable except for the most extremely wealthy. This is a moment that the pandemic is kind of like just a prelude. So I'm so glad you asked that question. And I really feel like we need to have mindful politics, a mindful governing. And no one knows how to come to that. But the more we actually see practice in that kind of a way, as well as just sitting on our butts and watching our breath, the more the world is changing. You see the young people who are moving into this, who knows where things are going. It could get a lot darker. And of course, you've experienced that in Argentina, a lot of death. In Chile and Argentina, a lot of death and horrible stuff. I won't go into it in detail, but you know what I'm talking about. Those were your leaders. Now look what we have in the United States, and look what we have in Brazil. This is something that really, and many other countries in the world, there's a tendency to go into, to use your words, you know, even more darkness. And that's why we need even more love. And, you know, the darkness, I mean, this is a cliche, but I think it's worth keeping in mind when we think of ourselves as small and insignificant. One match lit illuminates an enormous amount of darkness. A lot of matches around the world. Who knows what's possible? That's how the healing and transformation is going to come about, in my view. And the stakes are unbelievably high for this to happen. So in some sense, there's no retirement for us older people. We need to be engaged in more and ever more creative ways, not with the people who already agree with us, but with the people who like don't agree with us. And often they're in the same family. It's not just in the Blue House or the White House. Beautiful. I'm so honored by that question.
Muchísimas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Gracias por este intercambio a cada uno de los que participaron, a las decenas de manos que no han podido participar, pero siento que lo que ya se dijo fue inmenso y ha sido tremendamente rico este intercambio. Jon, quiero dejarte estos últimos momentos antes de que puedas cerrar para que puedas despedirte o decir lo que quieras compartir antes de poder cerrar esta transmisión.
Well, let's just take a moment, all of us, and drop into this moment and the feeling, the kind of residual feeling from everything that's been voiced by the people who had a chance to ask questions, by our being together. How is it in this moment? And out of this gathering and the fact that you're doing this on a regular basis every single day, and I love that. And I love that, you know, there are English-speaking communities and Spanish-speaking communities and French-speaking communities and Portuguese-speaking. I mean, this is turning into like multiple global sanghas that sooner or later are going to be interfacing with each other much more. So in these last few moments, let's just, as we begin our day, because for many of you, it's the beginning of the day, and if it's not, then nevertheless, this applies. What might be one intention that we could invite to arise in our hearts, that we can nurture on a regular basis, for how to live our lives and live our lives as practice, moment by moment by moment going forward, for the sake of the planet, for the sake of each other, for the sake of the Dharma, a universal Dharma that is everywhere and embraces all human beings and all beings, that has an infinite number of ways of being expressed, so we don't have to fall into tribalism around wisdom or compassion. And I have every hope and every conviction that, improbable as it may sound, that our collective intentionality for healing the world because it's such a pressing necessity, is possible. In this generation, in the coming generations, maybe just in time to pull the rug out from under or dissolve this, the dystopias that are arising, the tendencies, the forces of greed and hatred and delusion that are in ourselves as well as in others that we could point to. And when we heal ourselves, we're actually moving the world in the direction of waking up and liberating itself for the sake of boundless generations of life going forward, not just human life, but all life. And this is available to us 24/7 in every moment, in every breath, wherever we find ourselves on the planet, whatever societies we're in. As I said at the beginning, the world needs all its flowers, and every single one of us is one. And when we let that flowering flourish in an embodied, open-hearted way, that is mindfulness embodied, wakefulness embodied, compassion embodied, kindness embodied, and ultimately wisdom embodied. Only it's embodied in Indra's net, not merely in individual bodies. I love that. That's the love affair. So I want to thank you, Maria and Santi and Paulina, for the wonderful job of translating. And this is not easy to do simultaneous translation of anything, and then the specialized vocabulary of meditation and mindfulness, and even a bit of science, that's like not easy. So a deep bow on the part of everybody who's on this call to Paulina. And I wish you all well. It really not just lifts my heart, but it lifts my day to know that every single day from now on, you guys are still going to be doing this, and that your community and our communities will ultimately all intersect for the benefit of the world. And COVID-19 gave this to us. Okay, so this is a pandemic that is a disaster, but it's also a potential turning point, a wake-up call, and it's our responsibility to wake up. And I this a profound opportunity, and we don't get too many opportunities like this in a lifetime, even in 100 years. So we need to make maximum use of it. Thank you, folks, one and all.
Gracias, gracias Jon, gracias Santi por hacer posible esto, gracias Paulina por tu impecable y generosísimo trabajo de interpretar, y a cada uno, como decía Jon, es una comunidad y así hemos sido una comunidad de miles de personas reunidas en esta mañana y sentados juntos en esta convicción de poder despertarnos, así que tu generosidad es inmensa, Jon, de esta hora y media que nos regalaste y tu presencia, te lo quiero agradecer una vez más. Y queridos compañeros, nos vemos mañana. Mañana esto sigue, a las 8 de la mañana nos volvemos a encontrar, como cada mañana. Ahora vamos a abrir los micrófonos en unos minutos para que saluden a Jon y nos podamos saludar. En un momento después, Santi, Jon y yo nos vamos a una habitación privada, pero la conversación sigue, el Zoom sigue, así que se pueden quedar ustedes charlando, conversando, compartiendo un rato más, porque va a seguir la sesión abierta para ustedes para que sigan conversando. Así que, thank you, Jon, very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
So, yeah, we're going to sort of go into gallery view
Muchas gracias, Jon.
Muchas
gracias. Tremendo.
Gracias, gracias.
Gracias, María.
Gracias a todos.
Gracias, Jon, María, Santi, Paulina.
Gracias.
Chao, gracias. Somos tantos y tantas cosas iguales del mundo.
Gracias, Jon.
Gracias, Jon.
Chao, gracias a todos.
Chao, gracias.
Gracias.
Chao, gracias.
Gracias a todos.
Chao, gracias.
Gracias, Jon.
Gracias, Jon.
Estoy pasando a quienes
Saludos a todos. Nos vemos mañana.